There was an abandoned dairy farm down the hill from my childhood home. As a kid, I spent a lot of time there, finding sanctuary in my imagination, where I could invent entire existences, because I was, for a 6-year-old, obsessively curious about the people who used to live there. But my imagination took me even deeper, to the point where I felt genuine nostalgia for these made-up stories, inspired by all the things they left behind when they abandoned the dairy farm: clothes and dishes and tools and furniture. Deep nostalgia for a time and place I'd never known. And there's a word for that, actually. Anemoia. In fact, it's kind of my favorite word. I'm Blake. I'm the creator and host of Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast, the audio storytelling planet in the greater All-American Ruins multiverse. Season 2 of Abandoned starts this September, and do I have an itinerary for the both of us? If you're new here, hey, Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast is an immersive audio fantasy that simultaneously guides listeners through the ruins of America and what happens in my imagination as I explore these abandoned spaces with you. The kinds of places that look like they've been raptured. For example, last season in episode 2, I led you through the abandoned Saratoga Springs Air Force Base, where the stories my mom told me about the air raid drills during the Cold War came to life and echoed throughout the property. Or episode 3, where an abandoned 550-acre resort situated in the Borscht Belt of New York State summoned my fantasy of one day getting to go back in time to hang out with Shelley Duvall on the set of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Or episodes 6 and 7, where I hopped into the shoes of Aaron Brockovich and took you on a spy mission to 2 different state Superfund sites at the remains of an abandoned battery plant and an abandoned steel factory complex. I took you to abandoned psychiatric institutions and motels and houses and even a mansion where the people who used to live there live no more. Last season, we pretty much stayed in New York, which is where I live, which is where, a couple of months into the pandemic, I had a dream about that abandoned dairy farm from my childhood that kickstarted this whole project. But this season, get ready, because I'm taking you across the country to an abandoned roadside pizzeria and amusement lot in the mountains of Oregon, down to the deserts of California, where I reveal my Jimmy Carter-era fantasy at an abandoned gas station, back across the country and up into the Rust Belt of Ohio, to Cleveland, where I share about how I fell in love with a man named Jake at an abandoned bakery, to Allentown, Pennsylvania, where I almost get in trouble at an abandoned brewery and summon the ghosts of the mafia at an abandoned dairy farm, and to the beaches of the Outer Banks, North Carolina, where I introduce you to Mrs. Dalby, the gravekeeper's wife, who, maybe, once lived at this abandoned shanty next to a graveyard on the ocean, and then, the next day, pretend I'm 6 again at an abandoned water park just up the coast, and an abandoned school on the eastern shores of Virginia, where I reflect on the state of education in this country. We're even going across the pond. I know an abandoned restaurant in Lisbon, Portugal isn't an American ruin, but whatever. In any event, don't forget your headphones or your imagination for Season 2's premiere of Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast, popping up wherever you get your podcasts in September. In the meantime, you can binge the complete first season or explore more of the All-American Ruins multiverse at allamericanruins.com. You can read the original blog, enjoy the first 2 episodes of Hudsey TV's All-American Ruins adaptation, or follow me on Instagram at allamericanruins. That's the Season 2 premiere of Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast, coming to an imagination near you this September.